For the first time in our country, and it has never occurred before, a religious group complains to its former members and sues them for a trial against one of them, and it starts tomorrow. And today, Antonio Campos is going to tell us his testimony here on the Rock program.
His name is Gabriel. He was a member of the Jehovah Witnesses for more than 30 years. He has contacted us to tell us that he was sexually abused by the Jehovah Witness congregant from the age of 14 to 16. And that time he didn't tell anyone because of the psychological treatment. So we are going to speak to him about the trial of the Jehovah Witnesses against him that begins tomorrow. And funny enough, just after a trial against the Spanish Association of Victims of the Jehovah Witnesses, precisely because they consider what they carry in his name, victims, represents more than 200 people who one day became dissidents and who have denounced coercive practices ever since. Ostracism, violation of the rights and dignity of women and also of other groups of sexual diversity. This religious movement wants the judge to force the Association of Victims to remove this term, victims, as the Jehovah Witnesses considers that they express malicious lies that damages the organization's reputation and is asking for 25,000 euros in concept of compensation for moral damages. The trial has been seen and waiting for sentencing, with the prosecution requesting the absolution of the victims. Here we are seeing last baptisms in our country and massive ceremonies with which it welcomes new members that bring together thousands of people every year. Well, as religious entities have been on the register since 1970, although the first missionary arrived in Spain a century ago. According to his own data, the Jehovah Witnesses has more than 120,000 faithful ones here in our country, with more than 1,400 congregations and almost 800 places of worship. In 2006, the government recognized this organization roots. This is a consideration that places the organization in a special position with access for subsidies, for example, to negotiate agreements with the state. The Jehovah Witnesses is a company whose main business is printing the magazine that will be like its Holy Scriptures, has 8.5 million faithfuls distributed in more than 200 countries, but this organization never publishes their accounts and does not report their real estate assets. Defines himself as a Christian confession. Homosexuality is prohibited, and there are also millenarians, biblical contests that warn of the proximity of the end of the world and thus prepare itself when it arrives.
I was buying things following the list: mineral water, a raincoat, some earmuffs that is made from fleece for when it was cold, food, water purification tablets, medicines, rope, in case it was useful for a pre-chargeable flashlight, etc.
Well, they have their own judicial proceeding in which they say that before a complaint of abuses, they will create a judicial committee, and if a lawyer contacts them, they should not give any information. In Australia, Jehovah Witnesses hide 1,000 cases of sexual abuses of minors for 60 years, and in the United States, a 26-year-old girl has been compensated with almost $3 million for the abuse she suffered when she was only 9 years old. Today, former members in Spain like Gabriel who break the silence, Nuria, now on the bench.
Well, that's going to happen tomorrow. They are going to court. Let's talk about this topic, which is as interesting as it is controversial. Luis Santamaria is a well-known and informed person and theologian about sex, joins us in the program. Good afternoon. And one of the protagonists, Gabriel, right here too. I'm going with you, Gabriel, because of your testimony, which is also absolutely necessary and fundamental, and the most important. But Luis, who knows to perfection the Jehovah's Witnesses, I would like to know what is true in all these accusations.
Well, the complaints are certain. The feeling of the victims is not a group that criticizes Jehovah's Witnesses, but is telling what they have lived and what is occurring for the 120,000 Spaniards and all of those 8 million that are Jehovah's Witnesses around the world. A system of control and psychological and social slavery, of segregation from rest of the world, and ostracism motivated and moved by the fear of Armageddon. That is to say, it's a millenarian apocalyptic type of group that is saying that Jesus Christ returns tomorrow, and with this they are not moved because of the hope of the faithful, but the fear of Jesus coming tomorrow and finds me out of the group, and I will perish.
Well, this is the weird thing though, and it seems very contradictory. Antonio Campos had told us, with what we are seeing, according to the Jehovah's Witnesses, the world seems to come to an end any day tomorrow. But at the same time, tomorrow, Gabriel is going to court.
Actually, the organization is going to the weakest person. This organization, the Jehovah's Witnesses, is a large organization which is a real state and printing company with lots of money and with a lot of people, and they are trying to silence those who tell the part of the reality that this organization doesn't want the public to see.
And Gabriel knows that part of reality very well. How long were you in the organization?
Well, I was educated with the Organization of Jehovah's Witnesses and baptized, and I've been in the organization for 16 years, and I decided to leave in March 1st, 2019. Well, I was educated with the Organization of Jehovah's Witnesses and baptized, and I've been in the organization for 16 years, and I decided to leave in March 1st, 2019.
Gabriel decides to leave, and you become a nonsense troublemaker for them.
For them, literally. Some elders, people in charge, have told me a dangerous apostate.
Of course, tomorrow you are going to sit in the court. What do you expect is going to happen?
Well, to be honest, they are going after me. They want me gone. Why? Well, I publish at the public level the information of association on Facebook. I don't personally have any position in the association or belong to the director's position. I just publish information about victims in a Facebook page, and that's why I'm a little struck by the fact that they felt they need to sue me as well. Sorry, can you clarify this? What exactly are you accused of by the Jehovah's Witnesses for violating the right to honor of the Jehovah's Witnesses?
Of course, Jehovah's Witnesses denounce the Association of Victims precisely because it has the term victims in their name.
Indeed, and they have sued the board of directors and against Gabriel, who only publishes information in the Facebook page. But Gabriel has also been a sexual abuse victim by a local elder of the congregation of the Jehovah's Witnesses. So it's something unusual that you want to silence Gabriel. And also, this is showing to other ex-members and other Jehovah's Witnesses that they are trying to frighten others to reporting this online, and whoever, they will go after you.
Of course, this is generating many doubts and many concerns regarding these issues.
How long were you part of the Jehovah's Witness organization? I was baptized when I was 16 years old, and within all of the beliefs, 30 years. Now I am 35 years old. And the decision to leave, is it because of the abuse or does it come from before? The decision to leave, it was more because of the harassment that I received from the elders. I felt I was being pressured or being watched all the time. From the beginning or in recent years? The last years, especially after I told the elders about my sexual abuse, I didn't tell anyone previously out of fear. And the problem regarding this is that if you don't have 2 witnesses or more, they won't do anything about it. And even if they do investigate anything about it, they won't report it to the authorities. They believe they are protecting the congregation by keeping this hidden. But what about the children outside of the Jehovah's Witnesses? They are not protecting anyone else apart from their own. And even then, they fail to protect their own.
Let's speak to Mario Bonaco, who is a lawyer for the Jehovah's Witnesses. Good afternoon, Mario.
Good afternoon.
Well, we have many doubts about this organization from listening to Gabriel's testimony and knowing what is about to happen tomorrow. So, as far as we understand, the accusations of any former member against this organization are considered by them all false.
Well, let me clarify this a bit better. We have initiated a process of procedure against the Spanish Association of Victims of the Jehovah's Witnesses that applies to Mr. Gabriel Pedrero, but this procedure is another on which at the moment has not been tested yet and is being carried out at the moment. He is subject to all the tests that are carried out in the courtroom regarding this procedure. I would also like to clarify that this procedure is exclusively the right of honor and protection of the right of honor of this religious confession. In this procedure, proportional to the fact that there are that a person, for example, like Mr. P.E. or another that has belonged to the religion, it is proportional that all religions in general be blamed for a series of behaviors that, although they have been able to experience a specific act, but not as a whole, as a collective religion. Therefore, now it will have to be determined whether the specific use of that terminology of victims of the Association of Jehovah's Witnesses, since it has been possible to establish an interference with the right of honor of all religion, but also on the other hand, the use of abusive terminology such as destructive, religious, sect, and therefore all these issues will have to be discussed.
Well, this is true, and this puts into question the entire organization. For example, of Gabriel. Particularly, he has also been sued and he will be going to court tomorrow.
Yes, as you have said it is different procedure, and it is true that he has said that he has been manifested that he has not part of the leadership of the association, but it is true that he is presented as a vocal and has made a series of statements that has been used in social networks that we consider that this procedure still transgresses the right of honor of the religion of the Jehovah's Witnesses. And as you have stated very well previously, the trial starts tomorrow, and I'm not going to make any substantive assessments yet, but I would like to add that this procedure is not to sustain if the 12 people of the Association of Victims have lied or not lied, but it is somehow proportional that, and unfortunately the fact that the 12 people have seen a series of very unpleasant experiences that can be extrapolated to the entire religion system. The association is called the Spanish Association of Victims of Jehovah's Witnesses without any specific action.
But as far as I understand, Gabriel, who belongs to the Victims Association, is because he feels and he is a victim of the Jehovah's Witnesses. And I don't know if Gabriel has the opportunity to denounce the abuses he has experienced in the past. Have you had the opportunity and it's all under process to denounce the abuser?
The abusers are denounced in the Plaza Castilla and now they are in the provincial audience of Madrid. No date is known regarding the trial, but it is in the process. Now, regarding what the lawyer mentions, we have freedom of expression as stated in the Article 14 and Article 18 of the Human Rights, and gives us to speak the power to inform of our experiences of abuse. Also, regarding the issue that if we can talk to another Jehovah's Witnesses or not, because he may be disfellowshipped or expelled, the leaders deny this. But I can quote very, very briefly in the book that all Jehovah's Witnesses have, which is the book organized on the page 153, clearly states in such cases it is necessary to expel the sinner, thus depriving him of dealing with the pure congregation of Jehovah. This measure is taken to remove the wrong influence of the transgressor on the congregation in order to protect both God's moral and spiritual cleanliness with God's good name.
I imagine, Gabriel, that this is what happens when you report the facts of your abuse.
Or when one is expelled. Clearly, each organization can have their rules. If anyone wants to be in the organization or it doesn't, but I would like to make a consideration to Mario. Well, a couple of questions actually. Do you talk about proportionally or whether this may be a case, I don't know if I understand this correctly, as isolated case, but those 12 people may had a problem. Do you consider almost a coincidence, or do you believe that the contest has something to do with it? And on a personal level, if I can ask you this, besides being a lawyer, you are a member of the Jehovah's Witnesses, or you have nothing to do with it, or you just a person being hired by them? Oh, what a good question. Well, I'll start with the second question. We are a law firm. Lawyers specialize in the protection of the right of honor, and we represent the confession of the Jehovah's Witnesses. I am not a lawyer who practices their religion. And then it is true that since you have just mentioned Mr. Pedrero, each one, well, to the extent of their social and personal circumstances, well, somehow may share certain principles of the confession, and or does not decide to get involved in the confession, decides to make certain practices, is what we understand of the decision. And due to the fact has experienced certain experiences in this case, 12 that regardless of the veracity are already seen that there have been contradictions, versions of others. Basically, you can extrapolate or blame everything to a whole religion.
Excuse me, but the experiences that you make reference, I would not classify them as experiences. They are abuses. I mean, one thing is an experience and another is an abuse.
Each experiences of each one is a subject of judgment, and I have said it previously. Unfortunately, this is not only in the confessions of the Jehovah Witnesses. In many others also exist, and therefore it's up to the court to decide if it is extrapolated or blamed to whole religion or not. You call it experiences, Mr. Lawyer, but how can there be experiences when there is no two eyewitnesses or more? Because if there are not two eyewitnesses, they are not going to pay any attention to you, nor are they going to form a judicial committee, nor are they going to do anything about it, as they need two eyewitnesses to start an investigation. And how are they going to be two witnesses of any sexual abuse when the abuse is done in privacy? So I would like to ask you, Mr. Lawyer, a question. So if anyone decides to become a Jehovah Witness, and according to you, everyone knows the consequences or the rules, can you please tell us the rules of the Jehovah Witnesses? Because if you see the rules of the Association of Victims of the Jehovah Witnesses are clearly visible and accessible to all, but the Jehovah Witnesses, do they have the rules visible or accessible to all, so that those who want to enter or decides to become a Jehovah Witness really knows what are the real practices and not just as a face level value? So where can we see those protocols, those rules, when you are a Jehovah Witness? Please tell us. Well, all I can say that this is a procedure of the right of honor, the protection of reputation. This is not a subject of the procedure to clarify whether you agree with the principles or not that characterizes the religion. I do not get into or practice religion. I am not the right person to talk about this. It is a procedure that will only be limited to see if these expressions are insulting or not.
Well, he is referring to the court hearing tomorrow that is about the right to honor. Let me say hello to Carlos Badavio, who is the lawyer of the Association of the Victims of Jehovah's Witnesses. Carlos, I want to ask, what do your clients denounce that he believes will happen tomorrow in court? Which it seems very disconcerting.
Well, yes, Nuria, thank you for inviting me to this program. First of all, in the first trial that has held, there were 5 sessions for 9 hours each session. 70 victims declared, some in writing and 12 in person, and in those statements came to say clearly and exhaustively that, for example, when they were going to report sexual abuse before an elder, which act like priests, the elders told them that it was better for you to leave it on Jehovah's hands. So when certain women declares in the trial who denounced ill treatment from part of the witnesses, they went to denounce it before the elders. The elders told them, the victim, to leave it that on Jehovah's hands as well. So here we have a very serious problem, and the Spanish society should be aware of. Gabriel is a particular issue because of the demonstrations that he has made, but indeed here the religious confession draws attention that they should have more empathy for the victims because of what he has experienced, but instead the Jehovah Witnesses are trying to silence the victims any way possible.
I don't know if Mario Bonacco, Jehovah's Witnesses lawyer, wants to say anything about it.
Basically, it is an honor trial, not for questioning the experiences of third parties, whether or not everyone that has seemed bad to them can be extrapolated to a whole religion. I understand my partner's position. Somehow, I do not share that the object of the procedure, whether it is necessary to silence the victims, is the use of insulting terminology for the whole religion. Let me say something about this. If a person has been sexually abused by another person, so if this victim tells the experience to another person, the truth of the experience, and this person that has been told tells another about the victim's experience, it is true experience that this person has been abused. So this is what we know as a third person who tells what the victim has experienced of the sexual abuse. So it's the same for the Association of Victims. They are recounting the abuse of the victims, which are true experiences, through abuses. So the association is informing the society, the public, of everything that is happening within the confession of the Jehovah Witnesses. Therefore, it is no insulting matter to say it is a destructive sect, a dangerous group, because of their abuses. Totally agree, Carlos, but I would like to add that there are another series of expressions like they are not a religion, that they are a fraud, destructive sect, they pose a real danger to society. We will agree that these people will have experienced or have recorded some experiences in a specific event, but qualify generally like they are a fraud, that they are not a religion, that they are a sect. It is disputed under the right of honor.
You're going to have to excuse me. We both don't have more time, but we are going obviously to be very aware of everything that happens tomorrow in the trial. I think we are facing two completely different trials. Carlos Barbario and Mario Bonaco, thank you so much for bringing us closer to this conflict.
Well, it seems this organization that is more concerned with protecting the name of Jehovah's Witnesses than with discovering really about their abuses. In that sense, there are different procedures, and another thing is a series of crimes that have to be denounced, and from there might lead to criminal process completely different, which is what I think they are trying. In this case, is that there are actually 4 lawsuits that have been filed against the association, against the president, and another one against the secretary, and another against Gabriel. And it's obvious that they are trying to silence all the victims from telling the experiences of what the Jehovah's Witnesses books and magazines says, and they practices with the excuse of the right of honor. All apostates and everyone that leaves the organization are considered apostates, and in their publications are considered very dangerous people. They are compared with Satan, and they are going to be destroyed together with Satan. They are considered part of the Antichrist. This is what the association and all the victims that denounces them are apostates.
And we're going to leave with that conclusion.